This next demonstration will show you how to process and create solids. So first of all, let's go into modeling. Then let's open up your plan view at 124.0. And you'll see that everything that you have done so far is still in the stick format, a single line representation of your members. So the easiest view to look at your model is in the isometric view. So let's go up to View, Isometric View, and when you select that, it turns your model into your isometric view, and you can see your button bindings. Options say accept, options, and return. If you accept it, it'll keep the view as shown. Options, we'll select options, and then you can see you can rotate it here. So let's rotate this around a little bit here. And if you look at your cover sheet, your isometric view looks pretty close to about that rotation there. So let's hit accept. And now you can see it looks like your model is missing stuff. I mean, we put in a lot more beams and bracing than this, and it seems like that's missing something. So if you remember, in your plan views and in your elevation views, there was a depth check button. We opened up our plan view at 124 and we rotated our isometric view about that point. So on your top of your screen here, you can see our depth check is still on. At 124 elevation, it's only showing any members that cross the 124 and in 3 foot and out 3 feet. So if I turn this button off, uncheck it, now you can see the rest of my model appears. So for your isometric view, you want that depth check off. So now you can see my view still says I'm in 124.0. My elevation, since it's isometric, that elevation isn't a specific elevation. I mean, you can't put in a member at that elevation. So here, what we want to do is do our save view as, and let's call this ISO. Or you can call it isometric. And then for your erection view type, everything we've done so far we left as primary. In this case here, it really doesn't matter, but we'll get back to some of these other options here on our erection views. You can select it so it's a primary or a secondary, or if you don't want it to put grid bubbles on there, like grid line A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, etc., you can have it dimension to that grid line, or you can have it as a placement only. So in our case here, it really doesn't matter which one we pick. It's not going to create any grid bubbles. So now I've got my erection view saved. If I go back to open view and pick ISO, it takes me to that isometric view. So again, scrolling in and out, you can see your model. It's all in stick format. So to make the model come to life three-dimensionally, so you can see the connections, we need to process and create solids. So to process and create solids, again, couple options. Top of your screen you see process. And let's tear that menu off. And you can see process and create solids, process selected members, process solids for selected members, and your hotkey F5 to do it without having to select it. So process and create solids, let's select that. And depending on the size of your model and the speed of your computer, your processor, it could take a little while or it could be fairly quick. So the first time you're going to run this through, it's going to take the longest because it has the most information to go through. So it is done. Again, you could select this button here to close it when it's done. and I am done. Now again, F5 will process for us. So now we've processed. The model still is showing up in stick. You can't see any of the model. So now we're going to get into the three-dimensional part of it, showing it as solid. So here we have a couple options. Again, as we went through the pull downs before, under view, you can see toggle stick solid, change all to stick. So all stick is AS, all stick. Change all to solid opaque, solid opaque, and so on. So let's go to change all to solid opaque, and it changed everything. So now as I scroll in, and if I use my middle button, hold it down to pan, I can start and scroll back out. I can look at my model and see connections. And if I scroll back over here, I can see no connection. We've got some failed connections over here. When we put in our bar joist, I said the bar joist, you can see the bar joist here does not show three-dimensional because SDS2 does not detail bar joist. But you can see over here, it looks like a piece of plate here. This is that dummy material. It puts it on there just to locate these bolt holes and bolts. So now our model has processed. It's went through all the calculations, and any connections that passed it has put connections on them. So a few options for navigating through your model. We're in the isometric view here. Again, we can scroll in and out. A few other commands here. As you are exit out of all commands, so you're in the select items mode. If you hold down your shift key and look at your button bindings, you can see it says select plus, rotate and clear. Here's where you can navigate through your model pretty quickly. So let's just say here, I want to see what's on the other side of this column, like over in this area here. If I go to put my mouse about where I want to rotate about and hold down my shift key and then hold down my middle mouse button for rotate and then move my mouse while holding down, I can rotate about that point. And then I can relocate, hold my shift key again and rotate again, and it rotates about that point. So it's an easy way to start moving around your model and seeing like on the far side of your model if you want to see that connection. So now let's just say if I want to snap to a certain surface to see what is going on here with this cope here, this beam, make sure everything's clear. In this view here, you really can't tell. I mean, you could use your rotate again and kind of rotate up a little bit, and then you can see that, but then as soon as you start rotating, all of a sudden your other beams start getting in your way. So if you just want to see the surface of this web here, over on the icons here, as you can see, I highlight this icon here, it says surface mode. I click on that, my button bindings now say surface for the left, adjacent, and far side. If I'm on this side of this web and I hit surface, it's going to pick this side of the web and snap to that surface. Now if I zoom in with my scroll bar and I'm going to hit escape to escape out of that command, you can see my button binding and say surface, adjacent, far side. If you need to escape out of a command, you can hit the escape key. And now I can use my pan button. Now I surfaced, and if you remember in my setup, when I surface, my depth in on the top of my screen is 10 feet and my out is 3 inches. So you can see, I can see this beam way on the far side. That's like I'm seeing 10 feet on the screen. I don't want to see that. So let's change our depth in and out to like 6 and 6. Now it eliminated that beam behind. I can't see that. so it clears up my view. And as I look at this, you can see my connection. It's coped around the beam. It has my connection on my beam, bolt holes. As I scroll or zoom out and then move over here, and at wherever my mouse is the point it's going to zoom in at, you can see the connection here. So let's go back over here. A couple of the other surface commands. Go back to that surface command mode, and again we surfaced and we picked surface. Now if I want to look from the top of this beam down, one quick way to do it is to use the surface command again in this mode. And here, if I highlight this plate, this shear plate, and I pick surface on my button bindings here, I'm in my surface command. If I pick adjacent while I'm highlighting the face of this plate, now you can see it's flashing here. It's going to snap to that surface. If I hit the left button to accept, if I hit next, my middle button, now it's snap highlighting this surface. Next again, this surface. Next again, this surface. So now if I hit accept here, I'm going to snap to that top of that plate and I'm going to be looking back down. So I'm going to hit accept. And again, since I surfaced, my depth in and out is 10 foot in and out a 16th. So I'm going to change that 10 foot in to like 3. And my out I'm going to leave at a 16th. And now all of a sudden you can see the web of that beam, the shear bar connection, and only the web of this beam. If I change my depth in to maybe like 12 inches, that beam there must be a bigger. So let's go 24 inches. Now you can see I can see the bottom flange of my beam now. I still can't see the top flange of my beam because I'm snapped at the top of this plate and I'm only seeing back out of my screen a 1/16 of an inch. So another way you can look at your model fairly quickly and see stuff clashing. One thing I can see here is our setup. Our setback for our beam is not far enough back for our auto standard connections. So we will go back in and change that after a little bit. So that's some of your surface commands, your isometric view. Let's escape out of here. Let's go back to our isometric view. Rotating, zooming in and out, ways to navigate around the model. Again, with the different solids, change all the solid transparent main. Here's another icon that's set up as a one of your more commonly used commands. If you click on that one, now you can actually see through the material. This view is actually pretty nice because then you can, like I said, you can see through the material. You can see multiple things at once and how everything's connecting. So you need to play around with the different views and solids modes. And if you want to clear up your view here, you see over here, let's right click for menu to get out of, or escape to get out of here. If you see your little TV icon, display options, if you want to get rid of, it's not getting rid of, but just clearing up your model so you don't have to look at all the clutter, you can turn off certain items. So in this case here, let's turn off our piece marks, our member numbers, and our section sizes, and hit OK. And now you can see my model cleared up a lot. I got my cambers are still showing up there, so I can go back here and camber annotation, turn that off, and hit OK. And now them do not show up. So just looking at your model, it clears up so you don't have all that clutter. So you can see in the model we have some issues here. Beams not connecting, some failed connections, and so on. So that ends the process in creating solids and navigating through the model with different views, rotating surface commands. If you want to isolate a certain member, you can also do that. You got your model tree over here. As we get into the project a little bit further, we can isolate certain members here. As you highlight it over here, you can see in the model it highlights it over here. So you can find model members in the model that way. And again, as we get into it, we'll get into it further, but here's another option over here, isolate member by location. Whatever member you have highlighted there, it'll isolate that member. And as we get into the detailing portion, this is where you can add views to members. So when they detail them, it adds the views. Again, when we get into the detailing, we will get into that a little bit further. So that is pretty much wraps up navigating through the model and processing.